Clara Bennett's knees hit the frozen ground the moment she saw the ranch gate. Her boy went limp in her arms. She didn't scream, couldn't, her throat was too raw from begging, but her fingers clawed at the ice-crusted earth like she could pull salvation straight from the dirt. 5 days walking through December snow. 5 days watching her son die by inches. And now 30 feet from a stranger's door, her body finally quit. If you want to know whether they survived that night, stay with me until the end. Subscribe and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story of second chances travels. The gate to Cordell Ranch wore 3 inches of fresh snow when Clara's vision finally blurred past recognition. She'd been staring at it for the better part of an hour, trying to make her legs carry her those last impossible yards. Liam hadn't spoken in 2 days. That's what scared her most. Not the fever that made his small body shake against her chest. Not the blue tinge creeping across his lips. The silence. Her boy, who never stopped asking questions. Mama, why's the sky so big? Mama, where do birds sleep when it snows? Hadn't said a word since somewhere past the last town. The town that ran them off. Just a little further, baby. Her voice cracked on the words. See that fence? There's people there. Someone who'll help. Liam's head lolled against her shoulder. His breathing came shallow and quick. God, please, not him. You already took Robert. Please, not my boy. The prayer ran through her mind on repeat, same as it had for 300 miles. Clara didn't know if God listened to women like her anymore. Women who'd let themselves get thrown into the street. Women who couldn't feed their own children. Women who'd walked past 5 towns because every door slammed before she could finish begging. But she prayed anyway. Her boot hit ice. The world tilted. Clara twisted as she fell, taking the impact on her shoulder so Liam wouldn't hit the ground. Pain shot through her collarbone, but she held on, curling around her son, like she could shield him from the cold that was killing them both. Help! The word came out barely a whisper. Please. Someone help us. Nothing. Just wind howling across empty Wyoming plains and the distant sound of cattle. Clara's eyes drifted shut. Nathan Cordell heard the dogs before he saw anything wrong. 3 sharp barks from Duke the old shepherd, who'd stopped caring about much of anything after Elizabeth died. Then sustained barking. The kind that meant stranger or threat or something ain't right. Nate set down the harness he'd been mending and reached for his rifle by pure instinct. 4 years alone on this ranch had taught him to trust his gut, and his gut said, trouble just arrived. He moved through the barn toward the sound boots crunching on hay-dusted snow. The afternoon light was already fading. Winter days in Wyoming didn't last long past 3 o'clock. Whatever was out there, it needed handling before dark. Duke stood at the gate barking at something on the ground. Nate's first thought, Wolf got into the stock. His second thought, when he got close enough to see Jesus Christ. A woman lay crumpled in the snow just outside his gate, her body curled around something small. She wasn't moving. Nate covered the distance in 6 strides, rifle forgotten. He dropped to his knees beside her, and that's when he saw the child. A boy maybe 5 or 6 wrapped in a woman's shawl that was so thin it might as well have been paper. Ma'am? He touched her shoulder. Ma'am, can you hear me? Her eyes opened. Green, he noticed. Bright green against a face so pale she looked half dead already. My son. The words came out slurred. Please, he's sick. Nate pulled back the shawl and his stomach dropped. The boy's lips were blue. His breathing came in short, desperate gasps. Hypothermia, probably pneumonia, maybe worse. How long you been out here? 5 days, walking. No one would... She couldn't finish. Her teeth were chattering too hard. 5 days in December, in the open, with a sick child. No one survives that, except she had. Barely. Nate made a decision. He scooped the boy up with one arm light as nothing, just bones and fever, and hooked the other under the woman's shoulders. "Can you stand?" "I can." Her legs buckled the moment she tried. "Right." Nate shifted the boy to one arm and hauled the woman up with the other. She couldn't have weighed more than 100 pounds soaking wet, and most of that was probably the threadbare dress plastered to her skin with snow. "Gates open," he muttered, more to himself than her. "You'll walk or I'll carry you. Either way, you're getting inside." "I can work." Her voice came desperate, slurring. "I'm strong. Good cook. I can earn—" "Shut up and walk." She shut up. Barely managed walking, but she tried. Nate half-dragged her through the gate, across the yard, up the porch steps. His house empty for 4 years, except for him, and Ghost suddenly felt too small, with 2 more bodies about to enter it. But he couldn't leave them to die. Elizabeth wouldn't have. He kicked the door open. The house hit Clara like a wall of heat. Her body frozen past the point of feeling suddenly registered warmth and started shaking so hard she couldn't control it. The man, tall, broad-shouldered face, hidden under a snow-dusted hat, deposited Liam on a kitchen table and pointed at a chair. "Sit." Clara sat. She didn't have the strength to do otherwise. He worked fast, stripped off Liam's wet clothes with efficient, impersonal hands, wrapped him in a thick blanket, put a pot of water on the stove. "What's his name?" "Liam." Clara's voice shook. "Liam Bennett. He's 5. The fever started 4 days ago. I didn't have money for a doctor." The man pressed a hand to Liam's forehead, and his mouth tightened into a grim line. "How high?" "I don't know. Hot. He stopped talking yesterday." "He conscious?" Clara looked at her son's face. His eyes were closed. His chest rose and fell in those awful, shallow breaths. "Liam." She reached for him. "Baby, can you hear Mama?" Nothing. "Liam, please." The man caught her wrist, not rough but firm. "He needs medicine and warm liquids. You hovering won't help. Sit down before you fall down." "I need to." "You need to stay conscious. When's the last time you ate?" Clara tried to remember. The bread she'd begged off that farmer's wife. When was that? 2 days ago. 3. "I gave it to Liam." The man's jaw worked. He turned to a cabinet and pulled out a brown bottle, some kind of powder, a tin cup. "Willow bark," he said, mixing it with hot water. "For the fever. If he can swallow, it'll help." He lifted Liam's head with surprising gentleness and brought the cup to the boy's lips. "Come on, son. Just a sip." Liam's throat worked. He swallowed. "That's it. Good boy." Clara watched this stranger, whose name she didn't even know, care for her dying child, and something in her chest cracked open. She'd been holding herself together for so long. 5 days of walking. Weeks before that of being turned away, spit on, called names she wouldn't repeat. Months of watching her son go hungry because she couldn't find work that paid enough to feed them both. The tears came before she could stop them. "I'm sorry." She wiped at her face with shaking hands. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. We'll leave as soon as he's better." "I won't impose. I can work. I'm not asking for charity." "You're asking for your boy's life." The man set down the cup and finally looked at her directly. His eyes were blue, cold blue, like ice on a river. "Everything else is just noise." "I don't even know your name." "Nathan Cordell. Nate." He moved to the stove and ladled something from a pot into a bowl. "This is my ranch. You're in Sweetwater County, Wyoming territory, and you're going to eat this soup before you pass out on my floor." He set the bowl in front of her. Beef and vegetables still steaming. Clara's stomach clenched with desperate hunger, but she looked at Liam first. He needs you alive." Nate's voice didn't leave room for argument. "Eat. Then we'll see about getting you both thawed out enough to survive the night." The soup burned going down. Clara didn't care. She ate like she was starving, which she was barely tasting it. just shoveling it in until the bowl was empty and her stomach hurt from being full for the first time in days. Nate watched her with an expression she couldn't read. "What's your story?" he asked finally. Clara set down the spoon. She could give him the short version or the true version. The true version had too much shame in it. "My husband died 8 months ago. Mining accident in Colorado. His business partner said the claim was worthless, paid me nothing. I tried to find work, but no one wants a widow with a child. His family wouldn't help. My family..." Her voice went flat. "My mother made it clear I wasn't welcome. So I started walking. Thought maybe I could get to my cousin in Cheyenne. But then Liam got sick, and I ran out of money and..." She gestured helplessly at the present situation. "Here we are. You walked from Colorado." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "Most of the way. Got a ride on a wagon for 20 miles. Worked in a boarding house in Laramie for 2 weeks, but they threw us out when Liam's fever started. Thought he might be contagious." Her hands fisted in her lap. "After that it was just walking." Nate was quiet for a long moment. "5 days in the snow," he said finally. "With a dying child. And you didn't stop." Stopping meant dying. Clara looked at Liam still unconscious on the table. "I can die. He can't. So I kept walking." Something shifted in Nate's expression. The ice cracked just slightly. "Your boy's tough. Takes after his mama, I reckon." "He takes after his father. Robert was..." Clara's throat closed. "He was good. Kind. Honest. Everything I wasn't raised to value, but learned to love. And then he was gone, and I couldn't even keep our son fed. You kept him alive. That counts." "Barely." Nate moved back to Liam, checked his breathing, felt his forehead again. "Fever's still high, but the willow bark should help. We'll get more fluids in him when he wakes. For now he needs rest and warmth." He looked at Clara. "Same goes for you. There's a spare room upstairs. Bed's made. You can..." "I'll sleep down here, with Liam." "Suit yourself." Nate pulled a blanket off a shelf and handed it to her. "But you're not doing him any good if you collapse. Get some sleep." Clara took the blanket. Her hands were still shaking. "Why are you helping us?" The question hung in the air. Nate's face went carefully blank. "Because you're on my land, and you need help. That's reason enough." "Most people wouldn't think so." "I'm not most people." He turned toward the door, leaving Clara realized. Walking out like this was nothing, like he pulled half-dead women and children out of the snow every day. "Mr. Cordell." He stopped. "Thank you. For..." Clara's voice broke. "For not turning us away." Nate didn't look back. "Don't thank me yet. Boy's not out of the woods. We'll see what morning brings." He walked out, closing the door behind him. Clara sat alone in a stranger's kitchen with her dying son and a bowl of soup going cold on the table. Outside, the wind howled. Snow hissed against the windows. The stove crackled with warmth. She pulled her chair closer to Liam and took his small hand in hers. "We're safe," she whispered. "For tonight at least. We're safe." Liam's breathing stayed shallow. His fever burned against her palm, but he was breathing. That was enough. It had to be enough. Nate made it to the barn before his hands started shaking. He braced himself against Duke's stall and tried to breathe through the panic clawing up his throat. A woman, a child, in his house. The last time he'd had both of those, they'd died in the upstairs bedroom while he stood helpless and watched. Elizabeth screaming through labor that went on too long. The midwife's grim face when the baby finally came, blue silent, gone before she even drew breath. Elizabeth hemorrhaging, bleeding out faster than anyone could stop. 26 hours of hell that ended with him burying his wife and daughter in the frozen ground behind the house. 4 years ago. He'd sworn he'd never go through that again. Never care enough to hurt like that. Never let anyone close enough to destroy him when they left. And now there was a woman with fever-bright green eyes sitting in his kitchen and a boy dying on his table, and Nate couldn't just let them freeze. Elizabeth wouldn't have. His wife had been all softness and compassion. She'd have taken them in without question, nursed them back to health, probably tried to find them work and a permanent place to stay. Nate was harder, colder. He'd learned to be, but apparently not cold enough to leave a child to die in the snow. God damn it. He said it to the empty barn, to the ghosts that never quite left him alone. Duke whined and pressed his head against Nate's leg. I know, boy, I know. He'd give them a few days. Long enough for the boy to recover, or Nate didn't let himself finish that thought. A few days. Then they'd move on. Find that cousin in Cheyenne or some other place that would take them. He'd give them supplies, maybe some money. Send them on their way. He didn't need people in his house. Didn't need the reminder of everything he'd lost. Didn't need those green eyes looking at him like he was some kind of savior when he was just a man trying not to drown in his own grief. A few days. Then they were gone. Clara woke to Liam whimpering. She jerked upright when had she fallen asleep, and her whole body screamed in protest. Every muscle ached. Her shoulder where she'd taken the fall throbbed. But Liam was moving. Mama. His voice came out barely a whisper, but it was his voice. Conscious. Aware. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. Clara pressed her hand to his forehead. Still hot, but not as burning as before. How do you feel? Thirsty. Okay, I can... She looked around the unfamiliar kitchen, trying to remember where the water was. The door opened. Nate stepped in carrying an armload of firewood. He took one look at Liam's open eyes and nodded. Fever break. Not yet, but he's awake. Clara couldn't keep the relief out of her voice. He's asking for water. Nate set down the wood and moved to the pump, filled a tin cup with water and brought it to the table. Slow sips, he said to Liam. Too fast and you'll be sick. Liam drank like a man dying of thirst, which he probably was. Clara had to pull the cup away before he made himself ill. More in a minute. Let that settle first. Liam's eyes focused on Nate with a child's direct curiosity. Who are you? Nathan Cordell. This is my ranch. Are you a cowboy? The corner of Nate's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Something like that. I've never met a real cowboy before. Liam's voice was gaining strength. Mama, is he really a cowboy? Yes, baby. Mr. Cordell is a rancher. He's been very kind to us. Am I gonna die? The question hit like a fist. Clara opened her mouth, but couldn't find words. Nate answered instead. Not if I can help it. You've been sick, but you're getting better. Think you can keep fighting? Liam considered this seriously. Mama says Bennetts don't quit. Your mama's right. So you're going to drink this water, eat some broth when I bring it, and rest. Understood? Yes, sir. Good boy. Nate turned to Clara. He should sleep more. Keep him warm and get fluids in him every hour. I'll bring food. I can cook, Clara said quickly. You don't need to. You can barely stand. Nate's tone left no room for argument. I'll handle it. He walked out before she could protest. Liam tugged on her sleeve. Mama, where are we? Somewhere safe. Clara smoothed his hair back from his forehead. A good man found us and brought us inside. We're going to stay here until you're well. And then we'll figure it out. Liam's eyes drifted closed again. I like him. He's quiet, but he's nice. Clara thought about the gruff rancher who'd pulled them from the snow without hesitation, who'd tended Liam with capable hands, who'd fed her without asking questions or demanding payment. Yes, she said softly. He is nice. Even if he didn't want to be. 3 days passed. Liam's fever broke on the second day. By the third, he was sitting up and asking for food beyond broth. Clara watched the color return to his face and felt something she hadn't let herself feel in months. Hope. Nate appeared 3 times a day like clockwork. Morning, noon, evening. Brought food, checked on Liam, asked terse questions about symptoms, and disappeared again. He slept in the barn. Clara knew because she'd seen him heading out there after dinner with a blanket and a lantern. She'd wanted to say something, "This is your house, we'll take the barn," but the look on his face stopped her. Grief. Raw and barely controlled. This man was running from something, and Clara and Liam were somehow making it worse. On the 4th morning, she found him in the kitchen before dawn. "Mr. Cordell." He turned from the stove. He looked tired. Lines around his eyes that probably weren't from lack of sleep, so much as from years of carrying weight alone. "Liam's doing better," Clara said. "The fever's gone. He's eating solid food. I think we've imposed on you long enough." Nate was quiet for a long moment. "Where will you go?" "Cheyenne. To my cousin. Like I planned. That's 200 miles in winter." "I know. You'll die." Clara lifted her chin. "We almost died getting here. At least now Liam's strong enough to travel. I won't take more of your charity than necessary." "It ain't charity." Nate's voice went flat. "I need a housekeeper." Clara blinked. "What? This place is a mess. I can't cook worth a damn. The hands are decent with cattle but useless with domestic work. I need someone who can run the house." He met her eyes. "You said you can work. Prove it." "You're offering me a job." "Room and board plus wages, same as I'd pay anyone. You stay until spring, save up enough to get to Cheyenne proper. That work for you?" Clara's mind raced. It was too generous, too convenient. Men didn't just offer women jobs out of kindness. There were always expectations, always a price. But Liam was finally healthy, and she had exactly nothing to her name and 200 miles of winter between here and Cheyenne. "What do you really want?" she asked quietly. Nate's expression didn't change. "I want my house clean and my meals edible." "You want a roof and money. Seems straightforward to me." "Nothing's ever that straightforward." "It is on my ranch." He turned back to the stove. "Decision's yours. Stay and work or leave and take your chances. Either way, I'm not forcing you." Clara thought about Liam, about the snow outside, about the long road to Cheyenne, and all the towns that would slam their doors before she finished begging. "I'll stay," she said, "until spring, but I pay my way. I won't be indebted." "Wouldn't ask you to be." "And Liam? Boy can help with light chores when he's stronger. Feeding chickens, gathering eggs, nothing heavy. He's too young for real ranch work." Clara felt her throat tighten. "Why are you doing this?" Nate didn't answer for a long moment. "Because you remind me of someone," he said finally. "Someone who needed help and didn't get it in time." He walked out before Clara could ask who, but she knew. She'd seen the photograph on the mantel. A woman with kind eyes and dark hair. Young, smiling, dead. Whatever Nate was running from, it was tied to that woman. And somehow Clara and Liam had stumbled into the aftermath. She just hoped they'd survive it. Clara's first morning as official housekeeper started before dawn. She woke to the sound of boots on the porch and men's voices, low, work-roughened tones discussing cattle and fence lines. Liam still slept beside her in the small room off the kitchen that Nate had cleared out, so she slipped out quietly and started the stove. By the time the sun crept over the horizon, she had coffee brewing and biscuits in the oven. The door opened, and 3 men filed in, stomping snow off their boots. They stopped short when they saw her. "Ma'am?" The oldest one, grizzled and weathered, pulled off his hat. "Didn't know the boss hired on help." "Mrs. Bennett." Clara kept her voice steady. "I'm managing the house. Coffee's ready." The men exchanged glances but didn't argue. They took their cups and settled at the table, just as Nate came in from the barn. His eyes went to the stove, the biscuits, the coffee. Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. "These are my hands," he said. "Griff Griffin Headman, Sam Two Horses, Toby McLeish." Griff nodded respectfully. Sam, a lean man with dark eyes and long black hair tied back, studied her with quiet intensity. Toby, barely 20, with a scatter of freckles across his nose, grinned. "Real pleased to meet you, ma'am. Boss's cooking could kill a man." "I heard that," Nate said flatly. "Meant you two." Toby's grin widened. "No offense, boss, but I've eaten saddle leather with more flavor." Clara set plates of biscuits and gravy on the table. The men dug in like they were starving. "Lord Almighty," Griff muttered around a mouthful. "Ma'am, you're a blessing." "Just doing my job." Nate sat down last, his expression carefully neutral. He ate without comment, but Clara noticed he cleaned his plate. Twice. When the men headed out to start their day's work, Griff paused at the door. "Boss, we got trouble with the fence line on the north pasture. Wolves got through last night. Lost 2 calves." Nate's jaw tightened. "Show me." They left in a group, Toby still praising the biscuits on his way out. Clara cleaned up breakfast and was starting on the disaster that was the rest of the house when Liam appeared, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Mama, where is everybody?" "Working. It's a ranch baby. Everyone works." She handed him a biscuit. "Eat this, then you can help me." Liam ate while watching her scrub the table with fierce concentration. "Mama, are we staying here?" "For a while, until spring." "I like it here. Mr. Nate is nice, and quiet. He doesn't yell like—" Liam stopped. Clara's hands stilled. "Like who, baby?" "Like Mr. Harrington. He yelled at you when he came to the house that time. Said bad words." Marcus Harrington, Robert's business partner. The man who'd told her the mining claim was worthless and paid her nothing when Robert died. The man who'd shown up at their boarding house 3 weeks later, demanding something he had no right to ask for. Clara forced herself to keep scrubbing. "Mr. Harrington isn't here, and we're safe with Mr. Nate. He won't let anyone hurt us." "Promise." "Promise." Liam seemed satisfied with that. He finished his biscuit and asked if he could go look at the horses. "Stay in the barn where it's warm. Don't go near any animal unless Mr. Nate says it's safe." "Yes, Mama." He bundled up in the coat Nate had found for him, too big, but warm, and trudged out through the snow. Clara watched him go and felt something loosen in her chest. He looked like a normal little boy again, not the half-dead child she'd carried through the snow. She went back to cleaning with renewed determination. By noon, the kitchen gleamed. She'd scrubbed every surface, organized the pantry, found cleaning supplies, and tackled the front room. The house was starting to look lived in, rather than abandoned. She was elbow-deep in washing the windows when Nate returned. He stopped in the doorway and stared. "You didn't have to do all this today. You're paying me to keep house. I'm keeping it." "Clara." "Mrs. Bennett," she corrected. "If I'm working for you, we should keep it professional." Something shuddered in his expression. "Right. Mrs. Bennett, then." He moved past her to the stove. "The boy's in the barn with Griff, learning about horses, apparently. I told him not to be a bother." "He's not. Griff likes having someone to teach. Lost his own son years back. War." Clara's hands stilled on the window. "I'm sorry. Not your grief to carry." Nate poured himself coffee, just explaining why he's taken to Liam. "Don't read more into it than what it is." "I wouldn't." They stood in awkward silence. "There's stew for dinner," Clara said finally. "I found vegetables in the root cellar and beef in the cold storage. Should be ready by 6. "Fine." He left without another word. Clara went back to the windows and tried not to think about how Nate's whole house felt like a shrine to someone who wasn't there anymore. That evening, dinner was quiet. The hands ate with enthusiasm, and Liam chattered about everything Griff had taught him. Nate sat at the head of the table and said almost nothing. When the men left and Liam went to bed, Clara started washing dishes. Nate appeared beside her with a towel. I'll dry. You don't have to. It's my kitchen. They worked in silence. Clara washed Nate dried and put away. It was oddly domestic, comfortable even, until Nate spoke. The photograph on the mantel, you've looked at it. It wasn't a question. I noticed it, yes. Elizabeth, my wife. She died 4 years ago. Clara's hands stilled in the water. I'm sorry. Childbirth. Baby didn't make it either. His voice stayed flat, emotionless. This house was supposed to be full of children. Instead, it's just me and ghosts. Mr. Cordell. That's why I sleep in the barn. Can't be in here at night without... He set down the towel. You don't need to know this. Forget I said anything. I won't forget. Clara turned to face him. And I won't pretend I don't see it. You're hurting. This whole place hurts. But you still took us in. That matters. I took you in because I'm practical. You needed work. I needed help. You took us in because you're good. Even if you don't want to be. Nate's expression cracked just slightly. Don't make me into something I'm not. I'm not. I'm just seeing what's there. He left without responding. Clara finished the dishes alone and wondered what it cost a man to be that lonely and still keep breathing. The next 2 weeks fell into rhythm. Clara cooked and cleaned. Liam helped with small chores and followed Griff around like a shadow. The hands started showing up for all 3 meals, clearly grateful for decent food. And Nate remained distant. Polite, but distant. He worked from dawn until dark, came in for meals, spoke when necessary, disappeared again. At night, Clara would see lamplight in the barn and know he was out there, avoiding his own house. She wanted to say something, do something, but what right did she have? She was an employee, temporary. Come spring, she'd be gone. Then Marcus Harrington arrived. Clara was hanging laundry when she heard the horse. She looked up, and her blood went cold. Marcus sat astride a fine bay gelding, dressed in expensive clothes that screamed city money. His smile was all charm and no warmth. Clara, finally found you. She dropped the sheet she was holding. What are you doing here? Looking for you, obviously. He dismounted with easy grace. You disappeared from Laramie. Took me weeks to track you down. I don't want to talk to you. That's unfortunate, because we have business to discuss. His eyes went to the house. Nice setup you've got here. Trading favors with the rancher, are you? I work here, that's all. Of course you do. His tone dripped condescension. Look, Clara, let's not make this difficult. You know what I want. Liam isn't yours. He's Robert's son. Robert was my partner. That makes the boy my responsibility. He's my son, and you have no claim to him. Marcus's smile never wavered. Actually, I have every claim. Robert's half of the mining operation is worth $75,000. As his heir, Liam inherits that. As his guardian, you're not his guardian. I will be. I've already filed papers with the territorial court. Custody hearing is set for 3 weeks from now. He pulled a folded document from his coat. Consider yourself served. Clara snatched the papers with shaking hands. You can't do this. I can, and I am. You're homeless, Clara, destitute, living in another man's house doing God knows what to earn your keep. No judge will grant you custody over a respectable businessman who can provide... The hell he won't. Nate's voice cut across the yard like a whip. He strode toward them from the barn, Griff and Sam flanking him. All 3 men looked dangerous. Marcus straightened his charm, faltering. I don't believe we've met. Nathan Cordell, this is my ranch, and you're trespassing. I'm serving legal documents to Mrs. Bennett regarding, I heard what you're doing. Now I'm telling you to leave. This is a legal matter. You have no standing. Nate stepped closer. He was taller than Marcus by 3 inches and broader by half. When he spoke, his voice went deadly quiet. You're threatening a woman under my protection, on my land. That gives me all the standing I need. So here's how this works. You'll get on your horse. You'll ride back to whatever hole you crawled out of, and you'll pray I don't decide to follow you. Marcus's face flushed. You can't threaten me. Wasn't a threat. Just facts. Nate's hand rested on the gun at his hip. Now move. For a moment, Clara thought Marcus might push it, but something in Nate's eyes made him reconsider. This isn't over. Marcus mounted his horse. 3 weeks, Clara. The hearing is in 3 weeks, and when I win, and I will win, you'll regret making this difficult. He spurred his horse and rode off at a gallop. Clara stood frozen, the legal papers crumpling in her grip. Let me see those. Nate held out his hand. She gave them to him numbly. He read them quickly, his expression darkening. He's filed for custody, claims you're unfit, living situation, financial instability, moral character. Nate's jaw clenched. Son of a bitch is going after everything. He wants Liam's inheritance. Clara's voice came out hollow. Robert's mining claim. Marcus said it was worthless, but he lied. It's worth $75,000. If he gets custody, he controls the money until Liam turns 21. He'll drain it dry and leave my son with nothing. Can you prove that's his intention? No, I just know Marcus. He's never cared about Liam. Never visited, never helped when we were starving. This is about money. Only money. Griff spat into the snow. Man like that shouldn't be allowed near a child. Problem is proving it to a judge, Sam said quietly. Courts favor men with money, especially over women with nothing. Clara felt the world tilting. I can't lose him. I can't. He's all I have left of Robert. All I have left, period. You're not losing him. Nate's voice was iron. We'll fight this. How Marcus is right. I'm homeless, destitute, working for room and board on a stranger's ranch. What judge would choose me over a successful businessman? Nate was quiet for a long moment. One who sees you as a respectable married woman with a stable home. Clara blinked. What? Marry me? The words dropped like stones. You can't be serious. Completely serious. Nate's expression stayed neutral, like he was discussing cattle prices. You need legal standing. I need an heir. The boy inherits the ranch when I die. You get protection and respectability. Solves both our problems. That's insane. That's practical. Judge won't take Liam from a married couple running a successful ranch, especially if the husband has community standing. But you don't love you. Nate's mouth twisted. No, you don't love me either. This isn't about feelings. It's about survival. You want to keep your son, this is how you do it. Clara's mind spun. This is your life, your ranch. You'd tie yourself to a stranger just to help us. I'd tie myself to a legal arrangement that benefits both parties. I get an heir, you get protection, the boy gets a father and a future. Everything else is just details. Marriage isn't details. It is when it's a contract. Nate met her eyes. I'm not asking you to love me, Clara. I'm asking you to let me help. This is the only way that works. Griff cleared his throat. Boss is right, ma'am. Courts don't look kindly on single women. But a rancher's wife, that's respectable. And Nate's got a good reputation. Judge would side with you. But it's not real, Clara protested weakly. It'll be real on paper. That's what matters. Nate's voice softened just slightly. I know what it's like to lose a child. Couldn't save mine. But I can save yours. If you'll let me. Clara looked at the legal papers in her hand. 3 weeks. That's all she had. 3 weeks until Marcus Harrington took her son and she'd never see him again. What would this marriage look like? She asked quietly. Same as now. You run the house, I run the ranch. We live separate lives under one roof. Only difference is a piece of paper saying you're my wife. And when spring comes, if you want to leave, you leave. I won't stop you, but the legal protection stays. Once we're married, Harrington's claim has no standing. Even if you go to Cheyenne, you're protected. It was too much, too generous. But Clara was out of options and out of time. If I say yes, then we ride to town tomorrow, get married at the courthouse, filed the papers before Harrington knows what hit him. Just like that. Just like that. Clara closed her eyes, thought of Liam, thought of Marcus's cold smile and the hearing 3 weeks away, thought of this quiet man who'd pulled them from the snow and was now offering to bind his whole life to theirs just to keep them safe. Okay. She opened her eyes. I'll marry you. Nate nodded once, sharp and final. I'll tell the hands to handle things tomorrow. We'll leave at dawn. He walked away before she could change her mind. Clara stood alone in the snow, with legal papers crumpling in her fist, and the weight of an impossible decision settling over her shoulders. She was going to marry a man she barely knew. A man who loved a ghost. A man who'd made it crystal clear this was business, nothing more. And somehow, that hurt worse than it should. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark, listening to Liam's soft breathing and trying to convince herself she was doing the right thing. A knock on the door made her jump. It's me. Nate's voice came through the wood. Can we talk? Clara wrapped a shawl around her nightgown and opened the door. Nate stood in the hallway holding a small wooden box. This was my mother's. He opened it to reveal a simple gold ring with a small garnet stone. Gave it to Elizabeth when we married. After she died, I put it away. Figured I'd never need it again. He held it out to Clara. If we're doing this, it needs to look real. You should wear a ring. Clara stared at the ring. It was beautiful in its simplicity. I can't take your wife's ring. Elizabeth's gone. You're here, and we need people to believe this is real. His voice went rough. Take it. Make it yours. Slowly, Clara reached out and took the box. Thank you. Don't thank me. This is practical, remember. Nothing more. But the way he looked at the ring, like it hurt to let it go, told Clara this was anything but practical for him. Nate, I need to know something. What? Why are you really doing this? And don't say it's for an heir. You could marry anyone. Someone younger, someone without complications. Why us? Nate was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Because when I found you in the snow, you reminded me of Elizabeth. Not in looks, in situation. His voice dropped. She was pregnant with our first baby when she got fever. Took her 3 days into labor. She was burning up and I couldn't help her. Couldn't save her. I just had to watch her die. Clara's throat tightened. Nate, when I saw you collapsed with your boy dying in your arms, all I could think was, not again. I couldn't save Elizabeth, couldn't save my daughters, but I could save you, and your son. He met her eyes. That's why. Because second chances are rare, and I wasn't going to waste this one. The honesty in his voice broke something in Clara's chest. You did save us. You already did that. This marriage, you don't owe us more. I'm not doing it out of debt. I'm doing it because it's right. And because... He stopped himself. Because what? Because this house has been empty too long. And you and Liam, you make it feel alive again. I'm not ready to let that go yet. Clara's breath caught. This wasn't just practical, not for him. Maybe not for her either. Tomorrow morning, then, she said softly. We'll get married. Tomorrow morning. Nate turned to leave, but Clara caught his sleeve. For what it's worth, I think Elizabeth would approve. Of you helping us. Of you living instead of just existing. Pain flickered across his face. Don't know about that. I do. Any woman who loved you wouldn't want you to spend the rest of your life alone. Maybe. He pulled away gently. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. He left. Clara closed the door and leaned against it, the ring box clutched in her hand. Tomorrow she'd marry Nathan Cordell. A marriage of convenience. A practical arrangement. Nothing more. So why did her heart race every time he looked at her? Why did his rare smiles make her breath catch? Why did the thought of leaving in spring make her chest ache? Don't be a fool, she told herself. This isn't real. Don't make it into something it's not. But late that night, lying in the dark, Clara slipped the ring onto her finger just to see how it felt. It fit perfectly, like it was always meant to be hers. Dawn came cold and clear. Clara dressed in her only good dress, the faded blue calico she'd been married in the first time. Her hands shook as she fastened the buttons. Liam sat on the bed watching her with solemn eyes. "Mama, are you scared?" "A little." "Is Mr. Nate going to be my new papa?" Clara's fingers stilled. "Would you want that?" Liam considered this with the seriousness only children possess. "He's nice, and he doesn't yell, and Griff says he's the best man in Wyoming." He paused. "But I don't want to forget my real papa." Clara knelt down and took his hands. "You'll never forget your father. Robert loved you more than anything in this world. But he's gone, baby. And Mr. Nate, he wants to help us, wants to keep us safe. That's what this marriage is about. Do you love him?" The question hit harder than it should. "I respect him. I'm grateful to him. Love that takes time." Griff says love is just deciding to care about someone every day, even when it's hard. Out of the mouths of children. "Griff's a wise man." Clara kissed Liam's forehead. "Come on, we have a wedding to get to." Nate waited by the wagon already hitched and ready. He'd shaved and wore his good suit, the same one he'd worn when Clara first saw him. His face was unreadable. "Ready. As I'll ever be." He helped her into the wagon with impersonal efficiency, then lifted Liam up beside her. The boy immediately started chattering about the horses. They rode in silence for the first mile. Snow-covered plains stretched endlessly in every direction. The sky was that piercing blue that only came with deep winter cold. "You can still change your mind," Nate said quietly. "Can you?" "Asked you first." Clara looked at him, really looked. This man who'd saved them sheltered them, and was now offering to tie his entire life to theirs just to keep a child he barely knew safe from a predator. "I'm not changing my mind." "Good. Neither am I." They didn't speak again until the town appeared on the horizon. Redemption. Wyoming wasn't much a main street with a general store, saloon, church, and courthouse. Maybe 200 people on a good day. But it was the county seat, which meant Judge Thornton held court here twice a month. Nate pulled the wagon up in front of the courthouse. "Wait here. I'll see if the judge is available." He disappeared inside. Liam pressed against Clara's side. "Mama, everyone's staring." He was right. Townspeople had stopped on the street to watch. Their faces ranged from curious to disapproving. A woman in an expensive coat approached, her expression pinched. "You're Cordell's new housekeeper." It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am." "And now you're here at the courthouse with him. How convenient." Clara's spine straightened. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" "Margaret Sullivan. I run the ladies' auxiliary." Her eyes raked over Clara's worn dress, her too thin frame. Liam pressed against her side. "We don't appreciate women of questionable character settling in our town." "I haven't done anything questionable." "You're living alone with a man, unmarried. That's questionable enough." "That's why we're here," Clara said evenly. "To remedy that situation." Margaret's eyes widened. "You're marrying him today?" "That's the plan." "Well," Margaret sniffed. "I suppose that's marginally better than the alternative. Though rushing into marriage after only 2 weeks, people will talk." "People always talk." Clara met her gaze. "I learned to stop caring what they say." Margaret looked like she wanted to argue, but Nate emerged from the courthouse with an older woman in severe black dress. "Judge Thornton will see us now." He helped Clara down from the wagon. His hand was steady and warm, even through her glove. Judge Abigail Thornton looked to be in her late 50s with steel-gray hair pulled into a tight bun. Her eyes missed nothing. "Mr. Cordell, I understand you want to file for a marriage license." "Yes, Your Honor." "And this is the bride, Clara Bennett, and her son Liam." Judge Thornton's gaze shifted to Clara. Mrs. Bennett, you're the widow who arrived at Cordell Ranch 2 weeks ago. News traveled fast in small towns. Yes, ma'am. And now you're marrying Mr. Cordell. That's quite a rapid courtship. We have our reasons, Your Honor. I'm sure you do. The judge's expression was unreadable. Mr. Cordell, a word in private. Nate followed her into her chambers. Clara waited with Liam, her stomach nodding. Margaret Sullivan watched from across the street with barely concealed smugness. After what felt like an eternity, Nate and the judge emerged. Mrs. Bennett, please step inside. Clara's heart hammered, but she obeyed, leaving Liam with Nate. Judge Thornton closed the door and gestured to a chair. Sit. Clara sat. I've known Nathan Cordell for 15 years. He's a good man, honest, hard-working. Hasn't been the same since his wife died, but that's grief for you. The judge leaned against her desk. So when he walks into my courthouse wanting to marry a woman he's known for 2 weeks, I have questions. I understand. I'm not finished. He told me about Marcus Harrington, about the custody claim, about the mining inheritance. Her eyes sharpened. That true? Yes, ma'am. And this marriage is to prevent Harrington from taking your son. Clara lifted her chin. Partially. But it's also because Mr. Cordell needs help running his ranch and I need security for my child. It's a practical arrangement that benefits both parties. Practical. Judge Thornton's mouth twitched. That's what he said too. Word for word, actually. Because it's true. Or because you rehearsed it. Clara's hands clenched in her lap. Your Honor, I know how this looks. Desperate widow marries wealthy rancher right before a custody hearing. But I'm not trying to trick anyone. Mr. Cordell made this offer freely. And I'm accepting it because I'm out of options and out of time. If that makes me an opportunist, so be it. But I won't apologize for doing whatever it takes to keep my son safe. The judge studied her for a long moment. You love that boy. More than my own life. And Cordell, do you love him? Clara's breath caught. I barely know him. That wasn't the question. I respect him. I'm grateful to him. I think he's a good man who deserves better than a marriage of convenience to a woman with nothing to offer. And yet, here you are. And yet, here I am. Judge Thornton was quiet. Then she moved to her desk and pulled out papers. I'm going to grant this license, not because I think this is a love match, we both know it isn't, but because I've seen custody cases where good mothers lose their children to men with money and connections, and I've seen what happens to those children. Her voice hardened. I looked into Marcus Harrington. He's got debts all over Denver. Gambling, bad investments, expensive habits. He wants that inheritance and he'll bleed it dry. Your son deserves better. Relief crashed through Clara so hard she almost couldn't breathe. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Harrington will challenge this marriage. He'll claim it's fraudulent. You and Cordell better be prepared to prove otherwise. We will be. Good. The judge signed the papers. Bring Mr. Cordell back in. Let's get this done. The ceremony was brief and businesslike. Judge Thornton read from a worn book, her voice steady and formal. Do you, Nathan Cordell, take Clara Bennett to be your lawfully wedded wife to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? Nate's voice didn't waver. I do. And do you, Clara Bennett, take Nathan Cordell to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? Clara looked at this man who'd saved her life, and was now binding his to hers. His blue eyes met hers steadily. No hesitation, no doubt. I do. By the power vested in me by Wyoming territory, I pronounce you husband and wife. Judge Thornton closed the book. Mr. Cordell, you may kiss your bride. Nate went very still. Clara's heart hammered. They hadn't discussed this part. Hadn't even thought about it. The judge raised an eyebrow. Nate stepped closer. His hand came up to cup Clara's face, rough and warm against her skin. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. His lips brushed hers, gentle, brief, over, almost before it began. But Clara felt it down to her bones. When he pulled back, something had shifted in his expression, something that looked almost like longing before he locked it away. "Congratulations." Judge Thornton handed them the marriage certificate. "You're legally married. I'll file this today. Anyone who wants to challenge it will have to go through me." They left the courthouse as husband and wife. Margaret Sullivan still waited across the street now with 3 other women. Their whispers carried on the cold air. "Told you she was after his money. Poor Mr. Cordell, trapped by a desperate woman. That boy probably isn't even her husband's, probably doesn't know who the father is." Nate stopped dead. "Wait here." Before Clara could stop him, he crossed the street to the women. They fell silent faces, going pale. "Ladies." Nate's voice was ice. "My wife and I just got married. Now I could let you continue spreading poison about her character, or I could make something very clear." He stepped closer. All 4 women stepped back. "Clara Cordell is a good woman who's survived things that would break most people. She's a devoted mother, a hard worker, and as of today, she's under my protection. That means anyone who speaks ill of her answers to me. We clear—" Margaret found her voice. "Mr. Cordell, we clear," he repeated. "Yes," Margaret whispered. "Good." Nate tipped his hat with exaggerated politeness. "Enjoy your day, ladies." He walked back to Clara and lifted Liam into the wagon without a word. Clara climbed up beside him, her face burning. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah, I did." He snapped the reins and the horses moved. "You're my wife now. Anyone wants to come at you, they go through me first." "It's just talk." "Talk can be worse than fists, especially in small towns." He glanced at her. "You'll have enough to deal with when Harrington finds out. Don't need the town adding to it." Clara's throat tightened. "Thank you." "Don't thank me for doing what's right." They rode in silence for a while. Liam had fallen asleep between them, exhausted from the early morning and the excitement. "What happens now?" Clara asked quietly. "Now we go home. Live like we've been living. Only difference is a piece of paper and a ring. And when Marcus comes back, he'll come back mean, but we'll be ready." Nate's voice went hard. "He wants to take Liam through the courts, fine. We'll fight him in court. But I won't let him near that boy otherwise, whatever it takes. This wasn't what you signed up for. A wife, a child, a legal battle. I signed up for it when I carried you through that gate 2 weeks ago." He met her eyes. "I don't do things halfway, Clara. We're married now. That means your fight is my fight. Your son is my son. And anyone who threatens either of you has made an enemy." Clara's breath caught. "Why do you care so much?" "Really?" Nate was quiet for a long moment, his eyes on the snow-covered plains ahead. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything, to stand helpless while the people you love slip away. And I swore if I ever got another chance to protect someone, I wouldn't waste it." His voice dropped. "You and Liam, you're my second chance. Maybe my last one. I'm not losing you." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither was ready to name. Clara looked at the ring on her finger. Elizabeth's ring. Now hers. A practical arrangement, Nate had said. But nothing about the way he looked at her felt practical, and nothing about the way her heart raced when he was near felt like simple gratitude. "We should tell Liam," she said softly, "that we're married now, that you're—" She couldn't quite say it. "His father." Nate finished the thought. "Legally I am. If he wants to call me that." "He will? He already thinks of you that way." "Does he? You should hear how he talks about you. Mr. Nate says this, Mr. Nate showed me that. You're his hero." Nate's hands tightened on the reins. I'm nobody's hero. You're his, whether you want to be or not. They pulled into the ranch yard as the sun hit its zenith. Griff and Sam came out of the barn, took one look at Clara's face, and broke into grins. Well, Griff called, we planning a celebration or a wake? We're married, Nate said simply. As of an hour ago. Hot damn. Toby appeared from the barn. Boss finally did it. Congratulations, ma'am. Sam's smile was genuine. You've got yourself a good man. I know. Clara meant it. Griff clapped Nate on the shoulder. About time this place had a woman's touch permanent like. And the boy, he's Cordell now too. He is. Liam Cordell. Liam stirred at the sound of his name. Mama, are we home? Yes, baby, we're home. And you married Mr. Nate? I did. Liam sat up and looked at Nate with sleep-blurred eyes. Does that mean I can call you Pa now? Nate's expression cracked. Just for a moment, raw emotion showed through before he controlled it. If you want to. Liam threw his arms around Nate's neck with the uncomplicated trust only children possess. I want to. I want to lots. Nate's arms came up slowly, carefully, like he was holding something precious and breakable. He looked at Clara over Liam's head, and she saw everything he wouldn't say written in his eyes. Fear, hope, the weight of second chances and the terror of losing them. She reached out and took his hand. He held on like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. That night, after Liam was asleep and the hands had retreated to the bunkhouse, Clara found Nate in the barn. He was brushing down one of the horses with methodical strokes. You don't have to sleep out here anymore. You know that, right? His hands stilled. Habit. We're married now. People will expect... She couldn't finish. Expect us to share a bed. Nate set down the brush. Is that what you want? Clara's face heated. I'm saying it would look strange if my husband still sleeps in the barn. We agreed this was practical. Separate lives. I know what we agreed, but things have changed. How? Clara moved closer. You kissed me today. In front of the judge. Had to. Make it look real. Did it feel like pretending to you? Nate's jaw clenched. Clara. Because it didn't feel like pretending to me. Her voice shook. And when you defended me to those women, when you held Liam, when you looked at me like you cared, that didn't feel like pretending either. I do care. That's the problem. Why is that a problem? Because I wasn't supposed to. Nate's voice went rough. This was supposed to be simple. Help you keep your son. Get an heir for the ranch. Nothing complicated. Nothing that could hurt. And now I look at you and I can't remember why I thought I could keep this simple. Now I wake up and the first thing I think about is whether you're safe, whether Liam slept through the night, whether you smiled yet today. Now... He stopped himself. Clara stepped closer until they were nearly touching. Now what? Now I'm terrified. Because caring about people means losing them. And I already lost everyone I loved once. I can't do it again. You won't lose us. You don't know that. No. But I know we're here now. And we're yours. Legally. Actually. She took his hands. Let us be yours, Nate. Not just on paper, really. He stared at their joined hands. I don't know how to do this anymore. How to let people in. How to be a husband, a father. I'm broken, Clara. Elizabeth's death broke something in me I don't think can be fixed. Maybe it doesn't need fixing. Maybe it just needs accepting. You deserve better than a broken man. And you deserve better than living like you're already dead. Clara's voice turned fierce. We're all broken, Nate. Robert's death broke me. This whole winter broke Liam. But we're still here. Still fighting. Still hoping. That's what matters. Nate pulled her closer, resting his forehead against hers. "I'm scared," he whispered. "Me too. But I want this. Want you, both of you, more than I should. Then take it. Take us. We're yours." He kissed her then, not the brief polite kiss from the courthouse, but deep and desperate and full of 4 years of loneliness and grief and the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, he could learn to live again. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Come inside," Clara whispered. "Come home." Nate nodded. They walked back to the house together, hands clasped. At the threshold, Nate paused. "I haven't been in that bedroom since Elizabeth died." "I know. But it's not hers anymore. It's ours, if you'll let it be." He looked at the house, his house, their house now, and Clara saw him make a choice. Let the past bury the past. Live in the present. He opened the door, and they went inside together. The letter arrived 6 days before the hearing. Clara was kneading bread when Griff brought it in, his expression grim. "Courier from Cheyenne, said it's urgent." Her hands stilled in the dough. She wiped them on her apron and took the envelope. Official seal. Marcus Harrington's lawyer. Nate appeared in the doorway like he'd sensed trouble. "What is it?" Clara's hands shook as she read. "Marcus is bringing witnesses. People from Laramie who'll testify I was—" Her voice faltered. "That I was living immorally. That I neglected Liam. That I'm an unfit mother. They're lying." Doesn't matter if it's lies. A judge will hear testimony from respectable citizens versus the word of a woman who showed up half dead in the snow. She looked at Nate. "He's going to win." "Like hell he is." Nate took the letter and scanned it. His jaw went tight. "He's calling the boarding house owner from Laramie, the shopkeeper who refused you food, even that preacher who let you sleep in his church one night. They'll say whatever Marcus pays them to say. Then we get our own witnesses, people who've seen you here, who can testify you're a good mother and a good wife. We've been married less than a week. No one will believe it's real." Nate caught her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. "I believe it's real. That's all that matters." But Clara saw the fear underneath his certainty. He was terrified too. They spent the next 5 days preparing. Nate hired a lawyer from Cheyenne, a sharp woman named Adelaide Morris, who'd built her reputation defending women in custody cases. She arrived 2 days before the hearing and immediately started drilling Clara on every detail. "Harrington will attack your character, your past, every decision you've made since your husband died." Adelaide's voice was clipped and efficient. "We need to control the narrative. You're not a desperate woman who trapped a wealthy rancher. You're a devoted mother who found honest work and legitimate protection. Understand?" "Yes." "And the marriage. When did feelings develop?" Clara glanced at Nate, who sat silent in the corner. "Gradually. Over the weeks I worked for him. He was kind to Liam, patient with me. I started to respect him, then care for him then." She couldn't finish. "Then love him." Adelaide supplied. "That's your story. Love developed naturally. The marriage was a formalization of existing feelings, not a legal maneuver." "But I don't care about the truth, Mrs. Cordell. I care about what we can prove in court." Adelaide's eyes were hard. "Can you stand in front of a judge and say you love your husband?" Clara looked at Nate. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Could she say it? Could she stand up and claim to love a man she'd known for less than a month? The problem was, it wouldn't entirely be a lie. Somewhere between the first meal he'd cooked for a dying child and the way he held her at night like she might disappear, Clara had started feeling things she had no right to feel, things that terrified her. "Yes," she said quietly. "I can say it." Adelaide nodded. "Good. Now let's talk about the boy. Harrington will paint him as neglected, possibly abused. We need Liam to testify." "Absolutely not." Clara stood up. I won't put my 5-year-old son in front of a courtroom full of strangers and make him prove he's not being hurt. Mrs. Cordell. No, that's not negotiable. Adelaide looked at Nate. Mr. Cordell, make your wife see reason. Nate's voice was quiet but firm. She's right. The boy doesn't testify. We find another way. Adelaide muttered something under her breath, but didn't argue further. That night Clara couldn't sleep. She stood at the window watching snow fall in the darkness, while Nate lay awake in bed behind her. Come here, he said finally. She crossed to him, and he pulled her down into his arms, wrapping them both in blankets. We're going to lose, she whispered against his chest. We're not. Marcus has money, connections, a lawyer who knows how to twist everything, and we have a marriage that's barely real and a handful of ranch hands who'll say nice things. We have the truth. That counts for something. Not in court it doesn't. Nate's arms tightened. Then we make it count. We walk in there tomorrow and we show that judge exactly what kind of parents we are. What kind of home Liam has here. And we dare Marcus to prove otherwise. And if that's not enough, then we fight harder. Whatever it takes, Clara. I meant what I said. I'm not losing you. She tilted her head up to look at him. Why does this matter so much to you? Really, it's not just about having an heir. It's not even about second chances. What is it? Nate was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. You know what I think about every morning when I wake up, he said finally. For 4 years I woke up and the first thought was, Elizabeth's dead. Every single day. That was the first thing in my head. Clara's breath caught. But now I wake up and the first thing I think is Clara's here. And then, Liam's safe. And for the first time in 4 years, I don't want to die. I want to live. I want to see Liam learn to ride. I want to teach him about the ranch. I want to grow old with you and watch grandchildren run through this house. His voice cracked. That's why it matters. Because you gave me a reason to want a future again. And I'll be damned if I let Marcus Harrington take that away. Clara kissed him, slow and deep and full of everything she couldn't say out loud yet. When they broke apart, she whispered, Whatever happens tomorrow, thank you. For fighting for us. For caring about us. For choosing us. Wasn't a choice. From the moment I found you in that snow, you were mine. Both of you. I just didn't know it yet. They held each other through the night, taking comfort in warmth and presence, and the fragile hope that maybe love could be enough. The courthouse in Cheyenne was packed. News of the custody case had spread. Wealthy businessman versus frontier rancher with a widow and child caught in the middle. People loved drama. Clara walked in with Nate's hand firm in hers, and Liam pressed against her other side. The boy had been quiet all morning, sensing the tension. Marcus sat at the plaintiff's table with his lawyer, a sleek man in an expensive suit. When he saw Clara, he smiled, cold and confident. Mrs. Cordell, he said with false warmth. Or should I say, Mrs. Harrington-to-be. Once I have custody, perhaps we can discuss other arrangements. Nate stepped between them. You speak to my wife again, you'll regret it. Is that a threat, Mr. Cordell? It's a promise. Gentlemen. Judge Abigail Thornton entered from her chambers. Save the posturing for the courtroom. We have a child's future to decide. They took their seats. Adelaide leaned close to Clara. Remember, calm, dignified, truthful. Don't let Harrington's lawyer rattle you. The hearing began. Marcus's lawyer stood first, a man named Whitmore, who spoke in smooth, cultured tones. Your Honor, this case is quite simple. Marcus Harrington is the boy's uncle by marriage and his legal guardian per his late brother's business partnership. He seeks custody to protect his nephew from an unsuitable living situation. Unsuitable how? Judge Thornton asked. Mrs. Cordell arrived at Mr. Cordell's ranch as a destitute vagrant. She lived there unmarried for 2 weeks before a sudden convenient marriage occurred just days before this hearing. The timing alone suggests fraud. Furthermore, we have witnesses who will testify to Mrs. Cordell's poor character and neglect of her child. Adelaide stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Cordell is a devoted mother who did everything possible to protect her son during impossible circumstances. Her marriage to Mr. Cordell is legitimate and based on genuine affection. Any suggestion otherwise is pure speculation. We'll hear testimony and decide. Judge Thornton looked at Whitmore. Call your first witness. The boarding house owner from Laramie took the stand. Mrs. Fletcher, a pinched woman with hard eyes. Mrs. Fletcher, you housed Mrs. Cordell and her son for 2 weeks in November. Is that correct? Yes, sir. And what was your impression of her as a mother? Neglectful. The boy was sick most of the time she was there. She didn't call for a doctor. Just let him suffer. Clara's nails dug into her palms. Nate's hand found hers under the table. And why did she leave your establishment? I asked her to go. The boy's illness was disturbing other guests, and Mrs. Cordell couldn't pay her rent. She had no money, no prospects. I felt sorry for her, but I run a business. Adelaide stood for cross-examination. Mrs. Fletcher, did Mrs. Cordell ask you for help getting a doctor for her son? The woman hesitated. She may have mentioned it. And what did you tell her? That I couldn't help. She had no money to pay. So when you say she didn't call a doctor, what you mean is she couldn't afford one, and you refused to assist. I'm not a charity. And when you evicted her into a Wyoming winter with a sick child, did you offer any help, any direction to a church or shelter? Mrs. Fletcher's face reddened. That wasn't my responsibility. Of course not. No further questions. The shopkeeper came next. Mr. Reynolds testified that Clara had tried to sell her wedding ring for food, and he'd refused because women like that were usually selling stolen goods. Adelaide tore into him. Women like what Mr. Reynolds? Desperate women, widows with no male protection. You can't trust them. So you assumed Mrs. Cordell was a thief based solely on her being a widow. I was protecting my business. By letting a woman and child starve. How noble. Whitmore objected, but the damage was done. The preacher was last. Reverend Michaels testified that Clara had begged shelter for one night, and he'd allowed her to sleep in the church. And what was your impression of her character? Whitmore asked. She seemed troubled, desperate, not quite right in the head. Clara flinched. Can you elaborate? She talked to herself, prayed constantly, rocked back and forth like a madwoman. I was concerned for the boy's safety. Did you offer any assistance? I let her stay one night. That was Christian charity enough. Adelaide stood slowly. Reverend Michaels, Mrs. Cordell, had been walking through winter weather for days when she reached your church, correct? I believe so. With a sick child, no food, no money, no shelter. Yes. And when she talked to herself and prayed, did it occur to you she might be terrified, that she was a mother watching her child die and begging God for help? The Reverend shifted. I suppose. And when she rocked back and forth, did you think perhaps she was trying to keep her son warm, trying to comfort him? I don't know what she was doing. No. You just assumed she was mad and sent her back into the snow after one night. Very Christian of you, Reverend. Objection. Whitmore stood. Counsel is testifying. Sustained. Ms. Morris, stick to questions. No further questions, Your Honor. This witness has revealed enough about his character. When the defense rested, Adelaide called her witnesses. Griff testified first. He spoke plainly about Clara's work ethic, her devotion to Liam, the way the boy had flourished under her care. That child was half dead when he arrived. Mrs. Cordell walked through hell to save him. Now he's healthy and happy and loved. That's all that matters. Sam Two Horses spoke next, his quiet dignity commanding the room. I've seen bad mothers. Women who drink, who hit, who don't care if their children eat. Clara Cordell is not that. She would die before she let harm come to that boy. Even Toby, nervous and stumbling over words, made an impact. Liam talks about his mama all the time, how she's brave, how she never gives up, how she loves him more than anything. A kid knows when he's loved. Liam knows. Then it was Clara's turn. She took the stand with her heart hammering. Whitmore approached like a predator. Mrs. Cordell, you claim you walked from Colorado to Wyoming to reach your cousin in Cheyenne. Yet here you are in Sweetwater County 100 miles in the wrong direction. Why is that? I got turned around. I was exhausted and sick and trying to keep my son alive. Geography wasn't my priority. Or perhaps you were never going to Cheyenne. Perhaps you targeted Mr. Cordell specifically. I didn't even know he existed until I collapsed on his property. How convenient. A wealthy widower alone on a prosperous ranch. Quite the lucky accident. Objection. Adelaide stood. Speculation. I'll rephrase. Mrs. Cordell, how long after meeting Mr. Cordell did you begin living in his house? The same day. My son was dying. And you stayed for 2 weeks unmarried, sharing his home, his meals, his charity. Clara cut in. He saved our lives and asked nothing in return. If you're implying something improper, you're wrong. I'm simply pointing out that your marriage occurred very suddenly after Mr. Harrington filed for custody. Suspicious timing, wouldn't you say? The timing was prompted by your client's threats, yes, but the marriage is real. Is it? Can you honestly tell this court you love Nathan Cordell? Clara's eyes found Nate. He sat rigid, watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Could she say it? Could she claim love for a man she'd known for weeks? But looking at him, this hard, broken man who'd opened his home and his heart, who held her at night like she was precious, who'd chosen to fight for her when he could have walked away, Clara realized the truth. Yes, she said clearly. I love him. I didn't plan to. I didn't want to. But he's good and kind, and he makes me feel safe for the first time since my husband died. He treats my son like his own. He's given us a home and a future. So yes, I love him. Completely. The courtroom went silent. Whitmore recovered quickly. How touching. And yet you expect us to believe true love developed in 2 weeks. I expect you to believe that a woman who's lost everything knows the value of a good man when she finds one. Nate Cordell is worth 10 of you, Mr. Whitmore, worth 100 of your client, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of him. No further questions. Clara stepped down on shaking legs. Nate caught her hand as she passed. You did good, he whispered. Then it was his turn. Nate took the stand with the same calm he brought to everything. Whitmore circled him like a wolf. Mr. Cordell, you're a successful rancher, respected in the community. Why would you tie yourself to a destitute widow with a child? Because she needed help and I could give it. Quite altruistic, or perhaps you saw an opportunity, a woman desperate enough to agree to anything. Nate's eyes went cold. Watch yourself. You've been alone for 4 years since your wife died. Suddenly, a young attractive woman appears on your property, vulnerable, dependent. How could you resist? Adelaide objected, but Nate spoke over her. You want to know why I married her? Fine. I'll tell you. He leaned forward. 4 years ago, I watched my wife and daughter die. Couldn't save them. Couldn't do a damn thing but watch them slip away. I spent 4 years wishing I'd died with them. Wishing I'd never wake up. And then Clara stumbled onto my land with her boy dying in her arms, and something in me woke up. I couldn't save Elizabeth, couldn't save my daughters, but I could save them. So I did. The courtroom was dead silent. And yeah, I married her fast. Because Marcus Harrington showed up threatening to take her son, and I knew if that happened, it would destroy her. So I gave her the only protection I could, my name and my home. You want to call that manipulation? Call it whatever you want. I call it giving a damn about someone other than myself for the first time in 4 years. Very moving, Mr. Cordell. But the question remains, is this marriage real or a legal fiction? It's real. Nate's voice rang with certainty. Real as anything I've ever known. I love my wife. I love her son. They're my family now. And I will burn this courtroom down before I let anyone take them from me. Mr. Cordell. We done here? Judge Thornton spoke before Whitmore could respond. Yes, Mr. Cordell, you may step down. Nate returned to his seat. Clara grabbed his hand and held tight. Whitmore called Marcus to the stand last. He testified smoothly about his concerns for Liam, his ability to provide a stable home, his grief over his brother's death. I only want what's best for my nephew. Robert would have wanted him raised with opportunities, education, security, not on some isolated ranch by strangers. Adelaide's cross-examination was surgical. Mr. Harrington, you testified you were close to your brother Robert, yet you didn't attend his funeral. Marcus hesitated. I was traveling. I didn't receive word in time. But you received word of the mining claim's value. In fact, you contacted Mrs. Cordell within weeks of Robert's death specifically to discuss it. Isn't that true? I was trying to help by telling her the claim was worthless when it's actually worth $75,000. I didn't know the full value at the time. Adelaide produced a document. This is a geological survey from 6 months before Robert's death showing significant silver deposits. You commissioned this survey, Mr. Harrington. You knew exactly what the claim was worth. Marcus's face went red. That's taken out of context. And these are your financial records showing gambling debts totaling $60,000. Debts that came due last month, right before you suddenly developed an interest in your nephew's custody. Objection. Whitmore jumped up. How did counsel obtain my client's private financial records? Subpoena, Your Honor. All properly filed. Judge Thornton examined the documents. I'll allow it. Mr. Harrington, answer the question. Marcus's smooth facade cracked. My finances are my own business. They become the court's business when you're seeking custody of a child who stands to inherit a fortune you desperately need. Isn't that what this is really about? Not love for your nephew, not concern for his welfare, just money. That's a lie. Then explain why you never visited Liam after Robert died, why you never offered Clara help when she was starving, why you only appeared after she'd found stability and safety. Marcus had no answer. Adelaide turned to the judge. Your Honor, Marcus Harrington is not a concerned uncle. He's a predator trying to access a child's inheritance. The evidence is clear. I ask that you deny his petition and allow Liam to remain with the people who actually love him. Judge Thornton called a recess. The wait was agony. Clara sat with Nate's arm around her shoulders, and Liam pressed against her side. The boy had been quiet through the whole hearing, absorbing everything with wide, frightened eyes. Mama, he whispered, is the bad man going to take me? No, baby, I won't let him. Promise? Clara looked at Nate. He nodded once. I promise. 30 minutes later, they were called back. Judge Thornton looked at Marcus first. Mr. Harrington, I've reviewed all testimony and evidence. Your concern for your nephew appears to be purely financial. You have no relationship with the child. You've demonstrated no interest in his welfare beyond the inheritance he represents. I find your petition to be motivated by greed rather than love. Marcus stood. Your Honor, I have every right. Sit down. The judge's voice cracked like a whip. I'm not finished. He sat. Judge Thornton turned to Clara and Nate. Mr. and Mrs. Cordell, your marriage may have been hastily arranged, but I've seen enough hastily arranged marriages built on genuine affection. The question is not whether you married for love or convenience. The question is whether you can provide a safe, stable home for this child. Clara held her breath. Based on the testimony I've heard, you can. Liam is healthy, happy, and clearly loved. He has a home, a family, a future. That's more than many children can say. Hope bloomed in Clara's chest. Therefore, I'm denying Mr. Harrington's petition for custody. Liam Bennett. She paused. Liam Cordell will remain with his mother and stepfather. Furthermore, I'm ordering Mr. Harrington to have no contact with the child unless specifically permitted by the parents. This case is closed." The gavel came down. Clara couldn't breathe, couldn't think, just felt Nate's arms come around her, and Liam climbing into her lap, and the overwhelming relief of victory crashing through her. "We won," she whispered. "We actually won." "Told you?" Nate said against her hair. "Told you we would." Marcus stood, his face purple with rage. "This is a travesty. That woman is a—" "Mr. Harrington." Judge Thornton's voice could have frozen fire. "One more word and I'll hold you in contempt. Get out of my courtroom." He left, slamming the door behind him. Adelaide gathered her papers with a satisfied smile. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Cordell. Your son is safe." "Our son." The words settled over Clara like a benediction. They walked out of the courthouse into cold winter sunlight. Liam ran ahead, whooping with joy now that the tension was broken. Clara stopped on the steps and turned to Nate. "What I said in there, about loving you, I meant it." His eyes searched hers. "You don't have to." "I'm not saying it because I had to. I'm saying it because it's true." She took his face in her hands. "I love you, Nathan Cordell. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you saved us. Maybe when you proposed. Maybe when you held Liam and looked at him like he was yours. But it happened. And I'm not taking it back." Nate kissed her there on the courthouse steps, with half of Cheyenne watching. When they broke apart, he was smiling. Actually smiling. "I love you too. Both of you. My wife and my son." "Forever and then some?" Clara asked, remembering words from another lifetime. "Forever and then some." They went home. The ranch looked different when they returned that evening. Same buildings, same snow-covered plains, stretching endlessly in every direction, but somehow it felt transformed, like coming home instead of just arriving at a place. Griff and the hands were waiting in the yard. One look at their faces, and Griff let out a whoop that spooked the horses. "You won! We won!" Nate confirmed, helping Clara down from the wagon. Liam launched himself at Griff, chattering about the courthouse and the judge, and how his mama had been so brave. The old cowhand caught him easily, swinging him up onto his shoulders. "Course she was brave. Takes after her boy, I reckon." Sam approached Clara with his quiet smile. "Welcome home, Mrs. Cordell. Properly this time." "Thank you, Sam, for everything. Your testimony was just truth. Didn't do anything special. You stood up for us when it mattered. That's everything." Toby bounced on his heels like an excited puppy. "We got supper ready. Well, Griff did most of it, but I helped. Figured you'd be hungry after beating that son of a—" He caught himself. "After winning." The kitchen smelled like roast beef and fresh bread. Someone had set the table with actual plates instead of the usual tin. Candles flickered in the windows. Clara's throat tightened. "You did all this? Weren't going to let you come home to an empty house after the day you had." Griff set Liam down and pulled out a chair for Clara. "Sit, eat, celebrate." The meal was raucous and joyful. Liam told the story of the hearing 3 times, adding dramatic embellishments each time until even Nate was smiling. The hands proposed increasingly ridiculous toasts to justice to family, to Judge Thornton's ability to scare grown men silent to Clara's sharp tongue in the witness box. "When you said that lawyer wasn't worth 10 of the boss, I about cheered out loud," Toby said, refilling his coffee. His face went purple. "Probably shouldn't have said that," Clara admitted. Adelaide nearly had a heart attack. "Nah, it was perfect." Griff raised his cup. "To Clara Cordell, best damn thing to happen to this ranch in 4 years. They all drank to that. After dinner, the hands retreated to the bunkhouse with promises to handle morning chores so the family could sleep in. Liam fell asleep at the table, exhausted from the day's excitement. Nate carried him upstairs to bed. Clara followed, watching as he tucked the blankets around their son with gentle hands. "Pa..." Liam's eyes cracked open. "We're really safe now. The bad man can't take me." "You're really safe. I promise." "Good." Liam yawned. "'Cause I like it here. I like having a paw in a home and not being scared all the time." Nate's voice went rough. "You don't have to be scared anymore. Not ever." "I love you, Pa." The words hit Nate like a physical blow. Clara saw him struggle for composure. "I love you too, son. More than you know." Liam smiled and drifted back to sleep. In the hallway, Nate leaned against the wall and pressed the heels of his hands to his eyes. "Hey." Clara touched his arm. "You okay?" He called me Pa, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "It is natural. You're his father now." "I didn't think—" Nate's voice cracked. "I didn't think I'd ever get to be someone's father. After Elizabeth and the babies, I thought that door was closed forever." Clara pulled him into her arms. "It's not closed. It's wide open. You're Liam's Pa, and—" She hesitated. "And what?" "And maybe if we're lucky, you'll get to be a father again." Nate pulled back to look at her. "Are you saying—" "Not yet, but someday, if you want that." His answer was to kiss her until they were both breathless. "I want everything," he whispered against her lips. "Everything I thought I'd lost. A wife, children, a family, a future. I want it all, Clara. With you." "Then let's take it. All of it." He swept her into his arms and carried her to their bedroom. Not Elizabeth's room anymore, truly theirs now. They made love slowly, tenderly. Two people who'd been broken, finding wholeness in each other. Afterward, Clara lay in Nate's arms, listening to his heartbeat and feeling more at peace than she had in years. "Tell me about Robert," Nate said quietly. The request surprised her. "Why?" "Because he's part of your story. Part of who made you the woman I love. I want to know him." Clara thought about her first husband. The memories didn't hurt the way they used to. He was gentle, kind, terrible at business, which is how he ended up partnered with Marcus. He'd give away his last dollar to someone who needed it. She smiled. "Liam gets his soft heart from Robert, his stubbornness from me." "Sounds like a good man." "He was. I loved him very much. But—" She hesitated. "But what?" "But what I felt for Robert was different than what I feel for you. With Robert, everything was easy, comfortable. We drifted into love without really choosing it." She turned to look at Nate. "With you, I chose. Every day I choose you. Even when it's hard. Even when you're stubborn and closed off and sleeping in the barn to avoid your own feelings." Nate's mouth twitched. "I don't sleep in the barn anymore." "No. Now you sleep here. With me. Where you belong." "Where I belong," he repeated. "Never thought I'd belong anywhere again." "Well, you do. You belong to us. To me and Liam and this life we're building. And we belong to you." They fell asleep, tangled together, two broken people who'd found a way to be whole. The next morning, Clara woke to find Nate's side of the bed empty, but still warm. She followed the sound of voices downstairs. Liam sat at the kitchen table watching Nate cook breakfast with rapt attention. "See you crack the egg on the side of the pan then, damn. You said a bad word, Pa." "Yeah, well, cooking makes me say bad words. Don't tell your mama." "Tell me what?" Clara leaned against the doorframe, smiling. Nate turned spatula in hand and egg on his shirt. "That I'm terrible at this." "I could have told you that." She crossed to the stove and took over. "Go sit. I'll handle breakfast." "You just had a major legal victory. You should rest." "I just won the right to keep my son and my husband. I'm too happy to rest." Liam giggled. "Mama never rests. She's always doing something." "That's because idle hands are the devil's workshop," Clara said, cracking eggs with practiced ease. "What's that mean?" Liam asked. "Means your mama can't sit still to save her life," Nate supplied. "I can sit still. I just choose to be productive instead." Nate pulled her onto his lap. "Sit still now." Nate, the eggs. We'll wait. He wrapped his arms around her waist. Let me hold my wife for a minute. Liam made a face. Grown-ups are so weird. You'll understand when you're older, they said in unison, then laughed. Breakfast was chaotic and perfect. Liam asked 1,000 questions about ranch work. Nate answered each one patiently. Clara watched her family, and felt her heart swell until it almost hurt. After they ate, Liam ran outside to help Sam with the horses. Clara started cleaning up, but Nate caught her hand. Leave it. I want to show you something. He led her out to the barn to the back corner she'd never explored, pushed aside a canvas tarp to reveal a cradle. Beautifully carved, clearly made with love. I built this when Elizabeth was pregnant the first time, he said quietly. After she died, I covered it up. Couldn't stand looking at it. Reminder of everything I'd lost. Clara ran her fingers over the smooth wood. Nate. But now I'm thinking, if we're going to have more children, we'll need it. So I want to move it upstairs. Put it in the room next to ours. He looked at her. If that's okay with you. You want to move it out of the barn. I want to stop hiding from the past. Want to make room for the future. His voice softened. Want to fill this house with life again. Children. Laughter. Everything it was supposed to have. Clara's eyes burned with tears. I'd like that. Very much. They carried the cradle to the house together. Placed it in the small room that would someday hold a baby. Their baby. Standing in that empty room, Clara could almost see the future. A daughter with Nate's blue eyes. Maybe a son with her auburn hair. Liam teaching them to ride. The house full of noise and chaos and love. What are you thinking? Nate asked. That I walked through hell to get here. But I'd do it again in a heartbeat if it meant ending up with you. He kissed her softly. No more hell. From now on, just this. Just us. Building something good. The weeks that followed settled into a rhythm that felt like healing. Liam thrived. He grew stronger, laughed more. Lost the haunted look that had shadowed his eyes since Robert's death. He followed Nate everywhere, soaking up knowledge about horses and cattle and ranch management. At night, he'd climb into bed between Clara and Nate and demand stories until he fell asleep mid-sentence. He's getting spoiled, Clara said one night after carrying Liam back to his own bed. Good. He deserves spoiling after what he's been through. You're going to turn him into a little tyrant. I'm going to turn him into a good man who knows he's loved. There's a difference. Clara couldn't argue with that. The town's attitude shifted too. Slowly at first, then with gathering momentum. Winning the court case had legitimized their marriage in ways nothing else could. Judge Thornton's ruling made it clear the Cordells were a real family, not some scandalous arrangement. Margaret Sullivan actually apologized. Clara was in the general store buying supplies when the woman approached, looking uncomfortable. Mrs. Cordell, I owe you an apology. Clara set down the flower she'd been examining. Do you? Yes, I was hasty in my judgment. Cruel even. You were a stranger in desperate circumstances, and I chose to think the worst. Margaret's hands twisted in her skirt. I'm sorry. You've proven yourself to be exactly what you claimed, a devoted mother and a good wife. Clara studied her. The apology seemed genuine. I appreciate that, Mrs. Sullivan. Thank you. If you're ever interested, the Ladies' Auxiliary meets Thursday afternoons. We'd be honored to have you join us. It was an olive branch, an invitation into town society. 6 months ago, Clara would have given anything for this kind of acceptance. Now she found she didn't need it the same way. I'll think about it, she said, not committing. She told Nate about it that evening. You should go if you want, he said. Don't avoid it on my account. I'm not avoiding it. I'm just not sure I care about their approval anymore. I have everything I need right here. Still, might be good for you to have friends, women to talk to. I have you. I'm your husband. That's different. Clara considered this. She'd been so focused on survival for so long, she'd forgotten what it was like to have friends, to belong to a community. Maybe I'll go once, see how it feels. She went the following Thursday. The women welcomed her warmly, too warmly, like they were making up for past cruelty. But beneath the surface, Clara sensed genuine interest. Ruth Morrison, who owned the general store, pulled her aside. "Don't mind Margaret. She means well, but she's got opinions about everything." Ruth's eyes twinkled. "Between you and me, most of us were rooting for you during that court case. About time someone put Marcus Harrington in his place." "You know Marcus. Know of him. He's got a reputation in Denver for gambling debts and shady business deals. Your late husband must have been a saint to put up with him as a partner." Robert saw the good in everyone, sometimes to his detriment. Ruth nodded knowingly. "Well, you're well rid of Harrington now. And you've got yourself a good man in Nate Cordell. We're glad to have you in redemption, Clara. Truly." The words settled something in Clara's chest. She was no longer an outsider, no longer suspect. She was simply Clara Cordell Rancher's wife, and that was enough. Winter deepened into February. The snow piled higher. The temperature dropped until even breathing hurt. But inside the Cordell house, warmth bloomed. Clara discovered she was pregnant on Valentine's Day. She'd suspected for a week, but hadn't wanted to say anything until she was certain. When the morning sickness started and her monthly courses failed to arrive, she knew. She told Nate that night after Liam was asleep. He was reading ranch accounts at the kitchen table when she sat down across from him. "I need to tell you something." He looked up, immediately alert to her serious tone. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right, actually. But..." She took a breath. "I'm pregnant." The ledger slipped from Nate's hands. He stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. "You're pregnant. About 6 weeks, I think. The baby will come in October." Nate stood abruptly, walked to the window, stood with his back to her. Clara's stomach dropped. "Nate, say something. Are you not happy about this?" When he turned around, tears streaked his face. "Happy, Clara, I'm..." His voice broke. "I didn't think I'd ever get this chance again. A child. My child. Our child." She went to him, and he pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might shatter. "I'm terrified," he admitted. "Last time, Elizabeth, I couldn't save them. What if..." "Stop." Clara framed his face with her hands. "I'm not Elizabeth. This isn't then. We're going to be fine." "You don't know that." "No, but I'm not going to spend 9 months living in fear. We're going to be happy about this baby. We're going to prepare and plan and hope. And whatever happens, we'll face it together." Nate kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "A baby. We're having a baby. We are. Liam's going to lose his mind." They told him the next morning. Clara was right, he lost his mind. A baby. A real baby. He bounced in his chair. "Can I teach it to ride and rope? And oh, can we name it after Pa's horse?" "We're not naming the baby Thunder," Clara said, laughing. "Why not? Thunder's a good name. For a horse, not a child." Liam considered this. "Okay, but I get to help pick the name, and I'm going to teach the baby everything." "The baby won't be able to do much at first," Nate warned. "They mostly sleep and eat." "That's boring. When will it be fun?" "Few years." Liam sighed dramatically. "I guess I can wait. But it better be a good baby." "We'll do our best," Clara promised. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Clara felt better than she had carrying Liam, less sickness, more energy. Nate hovered like a nervous hen trying to prevent her from lifting anything heavier than a spoon. "I'm pregnant, not dying," she finally snapped after he'd forbidden her from carrying laundry. "I know, but I'm not taking chances." "Nate, I need to work. I'll go crazy if you treat me like glass." They compromised. She could do light work, but nothing strenuous. Griff and the hands picked up the slack without complaint. About time we had a baby around here, Griff said, grinning. Place needs young voices. Spring came late that year. Snow lingered into April, but when it finally melted, the prairie exploded into life. Wildflowers carpeted the ground. Birds returned. The cattle moved to fresh pasture. Clara stood on the porch watching Liam and Nate work with the horses in the corral. Her hand rested on her swelling belly, feeling the baby kick. Ruth Morrison rode up in her wagon. Brought supplies, she called, and news if you want it. Always want news. Come in. Over coffee, Ruth delivered the gossip. Marcus Harrington's in jail. Got caught trying to forge documents claiming he had rights to that mining claim. Judge threw the book at him. 5 years hard labor. Clara felt nothing but relief. Good. He can't hurt anyone else's family. There's more. Turns out he'd been embezzling from multiple business partners. Your Robert wasn't the first. Harrington's looking at additional charges. He'll be lucky if 5 years is all he gets. And the mining claim? It's yours. Well, Liam's. Been set up in a trust like it should have been from the start. Judge Thornton made sure of it personally. $75,000. Enough to secure Liam's future no matter what. Clara told Nate that evening. We should tell Liam when he's older, Nate said. Let him decide what to do with it. College, expanding the ranch, his choice. You don't want any of it. It's not mine. It's his inheritance from his father, Robert's legacy. Nate's hand covered hers. I've got everything I need right here. Summer arrived in a blaze of heat. Clara grew round and uncomfortable. She spent afternoons in the shade while Liam brought her water, and Nate fussed over her like she might spontaneously combust. I'm fine, she kept insisting. You're carrying my child in 100-degree heat. You're not fine. Women have been having babies in summer since the dawn of time. Not my wife. My wife gets shade and cool drinks and whatever else she needs. Clara couldn't help but smile at his overprotectiveness. It was sweet, if occasionally annoying. The baby came on a cool October evening, just as the leaves started turning. Clara's water broke during supper. Nate went pale. It's time. Oh God, it's time. Should I? Get the midwife, Clara said calmly. And Ruth, they'll know what to do. Right, yes, midwife. He grabbed his hat. Don't have the baby until I get back. I'll try my best. He ran. Griff appeared to take Liam to the bunkhouse for the night. The boy looked terrified. Mama, are you dying? No, sweetheart. I'm having a baby. It's messy and loud, but I'm fine. I promise. Pa looks scared. He is, but that's normal. Everything's going to be okay. The labor was long, but not terrible. The midwife, a capable woman named Mrs. Chen, coached Clara through each contraction. Ruth held her hand, and Nate paced outside the bedroom like a caged animal until Mrs. Chen finally let him in. Your wife wants you. Get in here. Nate took Clara's hand and didn't let go. I'm here. I'm right here. Don't leave, Clara gasped between contractions. Never. I'm never leaving you. The baby came just before dawn. A girl with a powerful set of lungs and a shock of dark hair. Mrs. Chen cleaned her up and placed her in Clara's arms. Healthy and strong. Congratulations. Nate stared at his daughter like he'd never seen anything so miraculous. She's perfect. She is. Clara looked up at him. Want to hold her? His hands shook as he took the baby. She fit perfectly in his arms, tiny and red-faced and furious at being born. Hey there, little one. I'm your pa. His voice cracked. And I love you already. More than you'll ever know. The baby calmed at his voice, her dark eyes trying to focus on his face. Nate sat on the edge of the bed, tears streaming down his face, holding his daughter. What should we name her? Clara asked. They'd discussed names but never settled on one. Nate looked at the baby, then at Clara. Hope. I want to name her Hope. Hope Cordell. Clara tested the name. I like it. Hope Elizabeth Cordell. for what she represents and what came before. Clara's throat tightened. Elizabeth would have loved that. She would have loved you, both of you. They introduced Liam to his sister that afternoon. He approached cautiously, eyes wide. She's really small. Babies are, Nate said, but she'll grow. Can I touch her? Gentle. Liam reached out and stroked Hope's tiny hand. She grabbed his finger and held on. She likes me. His face lit up. Did you see? She grabbed my finger. She knows you're her big brother, Clara said. I'm going to protect her forever. Nobody's ever going to hurt her or be mean to her, I promise. Nate's hand squeezed Clara's shoulder, their son brave gentle Liam already understanding what family meant. The first weeks with the newborn were exhausting and wonderful. Hope had her father's stubborn streak and her mother's powerful lungs. She demanded attention at all hours and gave nothing but trouble, and they loved every minute. Clara would wake at 2 in the morning to feed Hope and find Nate already there, walking their daughter around the room and singing off-key lullabies. You're going to wake Liam, she'd whisper. She likes my singing. She's screaming. She's joining in. Liam took his role as big brother seriously. He'd run to get clean diapers, bring Clara water during feedings, and spend hours just watching Hope sleep. When will she be able to play? He asked constantly. Few more months, Nate would say. Be patient. But patience wasn't in a 6-year-old's nature. By Christmas, Hope was 3 months old and starting to smile. The house was full of life and noise and chaos. They spent Christmas Day around the fire. Liam played with new wooden horses Griff had carved. Hope slept in Clara's arms. Nate read from a book Ruth had given them. I've been thinking, Clara said during a quiet moment. Dangerous habit, Nate teased. About how far we've come. A year ago I was walking through snow with a dying child and no hope. Now I have a home, a husband, 2 children, a future. She looked at him. You saved my life, Nate Cordell. You saved mine first. He set down the book. I was already dead before you arrived. Just didn't know it yet. You brought me back to life. We saved each other then. We did. Liam looked up from his toys. What are you talking about? About how lucky we are to have this family, Clara said. I'm lucky too. I got the best mama and the best pa and now a sister, even if she's boring right now. He grinned. And I never have to be cold or hungry or scared anymore. Never, Nate confirmed. You're safe here, forever. Forever and then some, Liam asked, remembering a phrase he'd heard the adults use. Forever and then some. They agreed. Spring came again. The cycle continued. Life on the ranch rolled on with its rhythms of planting and calving and endless work. But now the work had purpose. The house had laughter. The future had hope. Clara stood on the porch one April morning watching Nate teach Liam to rope a fence post, while Hope giggled in her arms at her brother's antics. The prairie stretched endless and beautiful under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. She thought about the woman she'd been a year and a half ago. Broken. Desperate. Certain she'd die in the snow. That woman was gone. In her place stood Clara Cordell, wife-mother rancher's partner. A woman who'd walked through hell and come out the other side stronger. Mama, watch this. Liam threw the rope and actually caught the post. I saw well done, sweetheart. Nate met her eyes across the yard. He smiled that rare, genuine smile that still made her breath catch. She smiled back. They'd built this. From nothing but desperation and determination and the stubborn refusal to give up. They'd built a home, a family, a life worth living. And they'd keep building it, day by day, choice by choice, forever and then some. Because that's what love did. It took broken pieces and made them whole. It took strangers and made them family. It took endings and turned them into new beginnings. Clara kissed Hope's soft head and watched her husband and son work together in the morning sun. This was what surviving looked like. Not just breathing, but living. Fully. Completely. Without fear. This was what second chances looked like. And God, it was beautiful.